Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulil Kareem. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Fiqh al-Muamalat online class. And today is a continuation of the discussion that we have started, and we are still in the prohibitions of Sharia and Islamic finance, and we are still in the Gharar, one of the prohibitions of Gharar, and we are towards the end of the sections of the Gharar. And today we'll be talking about the impact of the Gharar in some contract. Definitely, as we have discussed in the previous sessions, that the Gharar have an impact on the exchange contract, especially sales. But if you look at the some contract, like for example Rahan, we'll see that the impact of Gharar is less, meaning that despite the existence of the Gharar in some contracts such as Rahan, for example, the Rahan still valid contract. And one of the example is that Rahan, for example, if the asset is lost, such as a car, from Sharia standpoint, still you can charge that car, and the charge or the Rahan still valid. Let's say, for example, you have a car, and last few days you lost that car and you are still looking for it, and you need a kind of Rahan. Then you want to charge that car as a Rahan or not. So whether that car could be accepted or not. From Sharia standpoint, yes, that car, despite it is lost and you are still looking for it, but you can still charge it, despite the existence of the Gharar. So what I'm trying to say is that the impact of Gharar on Rahan is not that significant, whereby you still can charge the Rahan, but of course you cannot take a course of actions against the car. Only when it is found, then you can liquidate and sell the car, in case, for example, the borrower or the debtor default to meet his obligation. And the same goes the example by the scholars given on the fruits and vegetables which are not ripe, which are not perfected, which are not ready for crop or harvesting. So that kind of status of the fruits and the vegetable in the agriculture business still could be what's so called acceptable to be charged, meaning that you have fruits, for example, or vegetable which are still within the process, and you need still time for the readiness, despite the non-readiness of that kind of vegetable and fruits, but yet like trees, for example, and so on and so forth, you still can charge them. And of course you can't take legal actions only upon their readiness and their harvest, so you can take kind of charge. So the point here we're trying to say is that despite the Gharar is a prohibited element, but again the existence of the Gharar doesn't destroy all contract, doesn't impact all the contract, doesn't have a significant impact on every contract, but it depends what contract we are talking about. And in the case of Rahan, as we can see, so Rahan still accommodated degree of Gharar and still yet to be valid. One of the also contract where the what's so called the Gharar is not significant on it is the kafala. Kafala also is which is the guarantee. As you can see in the sales, you cannot accommodate unknown futures, for example, of delivery. The unknown futures or durations in the sales cannot be accommodated, and it is significant Gharar. But when it's come to kafala, kafala accommodates that kind of features in the contract and accommodate that kind of Gharar, and the kafala still valid. Or for example, kafala can accommodate future obligations, unknown future obligations. That one also is accepted in the wakala, and I think we have maybe discussed it, or we are going to discuss it for further when we cross those contracts. But the bottom line here is that some contracts, especially the voluntary contract, when there is no considerations, or some contract like security contract, as we mentioned, Rahan, so somehow they accommodate a degree of Gharar, but yet the contract will be valid. The other point we'd like to highlight is that sometimes the terms and the conditions in the Gharar, term conditions in the contract may somehow impact also the contractor if the degree of the Gharar is very high. And this is related to some kind of term and conditions within the contract. And one of the terms and conditions that may impact the contract is the unknown options, or options with unlimited time or unlimited known time. So you don't know exactly what kind of limit this option has. Normally the options could be 1 day, it could be 3 days, and could be more based on the view of some Sharia scholars. But bottom line, they have to agree on a specific limitation. But you cannot stipulate khayar or shart, which is the options within the contract, but without any limit of time. That one creates kind of ambiguity and creates a kind of unknown status of a contract, and the contract based on that will never be concluded or will never be binding, and can raise a kind of a dispute among the contracting party. One of the other also examples that may impact the terms and conditions of the what's so called contract is what's so called bay'u taniya. Bay'u taniya is a kind of bay'un wa shart, is a kind of sales with conditions, and it is a terminology more popular within the Maliki school of law. And bay'u taniya is a kind of a sales with exception, meaning you exclude something from the sales. But the problem is that what you have excluded is unknown. Like for example, you say, I hereby sold you four apartments except one, but you don't identify which one. I hereby sold you 4 cars except one, but you don't identify and specifically mention which one from these 4. I hereby sold you this tower or this building with the exceptions on 1 floor, but you don't mention which floor. I hereby sold you this 10 mobiles except one, so which one you didn't mention. So the problem here is that it's a sales with an exceptions of 1 or 2 items, but you never identify those items. That creates ambiguity. That may create also a potential conflict of interest and potential dispute, because you have not identified the item, and once you identify item, the transactions may not be relevant to the person, because maybe that item is very significant to the person, or maybe that item is one of the objectives to conclude that kind of contract in a bulk transactions. Then when you exclude it later on, so it may raise a kind of harm. Of course, it raises a kind of impact or kind of dispute, but lead also to a kind of potential harm and hardship and unfairness to one of the contracting party. This is why when you exclude something, it has to be specified, it has to be mentioned, it has to be agreed upon to avoid any kind of ambiguity, uncertainty, or a kind of dispute among the contracting parties. So this is, in overall, the Gharar that we have discussed it, and it is one of the prohibition of the contract. And this is the definition of the Gharar, the type of the Gharar, the classification of a Gharar, the existence of Gharar, its scope in the expression of the contract, in the subject of the contract, price and goods, and it is in the term and the conditions, along with some types and how the Gharar may or may not impact the contract. Depends whether it is on the exchange contract or it is on the voluntary contract, and so on and so forth. And as far as the Islamic financial transactions, it should be free from any Gharar, to ensure that there is a transparency, there is a disclosure of information, there is no lack of information, there is no uncertainty, there is no lack of knowledge, and both parties on the same page in order for them to express their consent and make their decisions and finalize the business transactions without any potential harm or hardship or any potential kind of dispute among the two contracting party. With this, we come to the end of the session. Thank you very much, and see you inshallah in the coming session. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.